You're watching Biography of the Millennium on A&E as we continue our countdown of the 100 most influential people of the last 1,000 years. She was the original feminist, and her work influenced millions who followed. Number 48 on our list, Mary Wollstonecraft. In 18th century England, women were supposed to know their place. But Wollstonecraft spoke out for liberation in her book, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. She would leave behind the seeds of progressive legislation and a daughter who was a writer too, Mary Shelley, famed author of Frankenstein. He was an unknown academic with a revolutionary idea. Charles Babbage, the father of the computer. He sketched out the design in the 1830s, but was never able to build it.
His problem was the materials that were available to him were so crude. He could not create the wheels and the sprockets with sufficient precision that the engine would actually work well.
100 years later, a Harvard graduate student stumbled on his designs and gave birth to the computer revolution, which is only just beginning.
Machiavelli is the first person to say, what is power? How does it work? How do you get it? How do you lose it?
Niccolo Machiavelli, number 46. This author and diplomat wrote the book that's still the definitive study of politics nearly 500 years later. Machiavelli told aspiring rulers that to stay on the throne, they must be prepared to use any means necessary.
That notion of power as a kind of independent end in itself, whether a good or a bad thing, that is Machiavelli's contribution to the modern world. The fact that Machiavelli talks about how to be amoral in pursuing power means that whenever we don't like someone, we call them Machiavelli.
Few men understood raw power, the power of the sword and the longbow, like William the Conqueror, number 45 of the Millennium 100. At the Battle of Hastings in 1066, he became the only foreigner ever to conquer England. Soon this illegitimate son of a French duke stamped his will upon the land. His subjects came to know him as William the Bastard.
He was a bastard. He was a bastard. A Norman bastard came here, landed, he would put his troops out, they advanced and then they retreated, and we broke ranks, there it was, you know, and then they just cut us to pieces. William, you bastard, you French bastard. Next thing you know, we're all learning different words. All right then.
William's Norman conquest did bring a cascade of French and Latin words into the English language. It also brought new concepts like common law and a centralized government. And after William's victory, England would go on to build the mightiest empire since ancient Rome.
Hello? Would you please get off this line?
Cat speaking. Hello, Daily Planet?
At the sound of the tone, the time will be exactly 12:05, please. Number, please. Information. Calling.
Please hold for number 44 on our list, the illustrious Alexander Graham Bell.
He was starting out trying to figure out how to send more than one telegraph signal through the same wire. When he realized that he could send sound or voice through this thing, he got very excited because I think he believed he could help his deaf wife.
Bell invented the telephone in 1876. At first, it was regarded as little more than a novelty. But in just 4 years, there were nearly 250,000 worldwide. And that was just the beginning.
Most business today is done over the telephone, and if you add to the telephone internet and radio and television that's now being digitized and sent over phone lines, Alexander Graham Bell is controlling 99% of all of our communications in this day and age.
It was called The Little Red Book, Quotations of Chairman Mao Zedong, leader of the Chinese Communist Revolution.
He seized control of the largest country on earth, starting from a base of almost nothing. It took him over 20 years. He then transformed his country dramatically. He killed millions of people. He is right up there with Hitler and Stalin as one of the greatest murderers of the century.
Mao ruled China for 27 years, and though he lifted a fifth of the world's people up from feudal deprivation, the nation he created remains one of the most repressive regimes of modern times. With the fall of the Soviet Union, China is now the world's reigning communist society. He invented the science of genetics, an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel, number 42 of the Millennium 100. Mendel patiently cultivated thousands of pea plants, studying how characteristics like height, shape, and color were passed from one generation to the next.
This was an absolutely fascinating discovery of heredity, the beginning of the understanding of genetics.
The first thing that he brought to light was the fact that there are what he called dominant traits and recessive traits.
Today, we grow closer to understanding how every gene works, how each may be altered or copied to fight disease or even to duplicate life itself. Humble brother Mendel's discovery that each living thing inherits traits from the generations that preceded it was the first step.
People are trying to do more and more with their personal computers. They're reaching out and viewing it as a critical communications tool.
There are less than a dozen living members on our list, and this man is the youngest of them all. Bill Gates, college dropout, chairman and CEO of Microsoft, and the man who transformed the computer industry. His software products are installed in more than 90% of all personal computers worldwide.
Think about electricity or water or the phone system just being there. You take all of that for granted. Computers will be the same way.
Less than 20 years ago, Bill Gates' company was hired to design the operating system for IBM's first personal computers. Gates' program, MS-DOS, soon became the standard for the entire PC industry.
Bill found a place in history to fill, and then because of his character, managed to fill it extremely well.
And he's also damned lucky that IBM didn't understand the value of what it was he was doing.
From Word to Windows, Gates' software has helped spark the most radical revolution in communications and information since the printing press.
I don't think that any living person should have been included in your list. I think that should have been the first criteria.